Well,
So I have a
so
question.
Kevin, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. So of like what you experienced this week, a big part of it, like we called it takeaways, but the big theme in all of this is to identify like what works for Christine, like straight up like what you enjoyed. And this isn't like to like pat Jeanette on the back or, you know, to please anyone but yourself, really. What from what you experienced did you really enjoy, like that comes to mind right away? Not something that you kind of enjoyed, but like what's something of the things that you did that you enjoyed for you?
From what was given to me,
Yes.
the 10 minutes of that stretch, that was so good. Like
Anything else?
cool. That was a total takeaway for me.
Mm-hmm.
Those podcasts were interesting. I really enjoyed listening to them and it was cool. Like he's like a local trainer too, so that was pretty interesting. So I'll probably actually start listening more to his podcast because I think it's always nice to hear
People's stories and experiences.
Yeah, especially when they're local. Like, why not support it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
And
yeah.
anything else?
Well, like I said, that one podcast
Mm-hmm.
now has me second guessing every time I do a workout, right? Because I'm just like, all right, well, I'm working out today, and I'm gonna work out tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, but I want to do this class, but that's supposed to be on my rest day. Like tomorrow is supposed to be my rest day, and I'm going to be doing a booty band workout instead. And I'm teaching on Friday, which is supposed to be on my other rest day. So now I'm just like,
So it's awareness of recovery and taking care of your body.
yeah. And now trying to figure out when my rest days will be this week. Because I can honestly say I don't have it planned.
Okay.
I honestly don't know when my rest day will be this week.
Jeanette's been pointing at this, but like when you go gangbusters with your workouts, like you are motivated to like tick the box in that you complete the class, you put in that effort that's in line with like the intensity and getting to where your goals are. Now, what would that look like to stretch in that capacity, right? Like you're not going to do it like intensely, like we're not going like CrossFit stretching here. I just mean like what would doing your stretches with that same level of vigor and attention and care look like that you display in your spin classes and your other different workouts? Like what would be the comparable way you'd approach stretching?
Well, I guess I was kind of alluding to it previously, where doing a workout in general at home is just it's not motivating.
Yeah.
And being in a space away from home, like that's dedicated to yoga, stretching, working out, like then that just gives me that time block that I need to do it. Unfortunately, that's not exactly available at the moment. So like I have the Wednesday class right now, which is really nice. Like that class, since it's been added, has really helped. Like I'm going to be doing that every Wednesday now because it's just been so beneficial. Now that I know the link for that 10-minute stretch, you know, if there happens to be a time I'll probably end up doing them in the evenings where I can just do those stretches if I feel like really tight. Yeah. And then on top of that, now that the focus with mind, like I did that, the 15-minute yoga sequence, like just before the call. So like that was nice with helping just opening up, waking up the joints. And I feel like she might have a bunch of other stuff like that this week. So I think that will also help with the mindful stretching.
Does that work for you though? Like I know that you just said out loud that you're not a huge fan of like watching online and then following the instruction. Is there a way like that it could work for you? Like immediately what my thoughts were like showing up to your class early and then taking part in the class and even asking somebody at the class to do it with you and making it your own. like we know that community is impactful for you, but how could you take it and make it your own?
Well, I think I need to go beyond my stubbornness of not wanting to do that stuff at home and actually like get her done, because the reality is like there's like I can't just I go to the class and then I leave, right? Like unfortunately WorkSafe BC only allows that. So we can't like hang out. We can't hang around before and after. You know, that might change once one of the clubs that I've joined, they open September 18, and there's another club that I might be available to get into soon. So, you know, the likelihood of me showing up early and stretching and doing all that fun stuff, yeah, that's total a possibility. But until then, like, you know, doing that online yoga for 15 minutes, that was fine. It was more just not wanting to do the hard work, like the cardio.
Gotcha. Okay.
Or
I see.
the stuff where I'm just like, this is hard work. Like stretching and following a stretching thing online, that's fine. Like, you know, like I'm not exerting a ton of effort. I'm really just having kindness and compassion for myself.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm glad you clarified that, because that's a very great distinction that me being aware of is good, because I was thinking like, do we need to modify things now? But it's the cardio and exertion stuff that doesn't feel so great to do in that setting. Okay.
Yeah.
So my next question is like that was all the stuff that you liked. Now I want to go into now the things that didn't work for you. What are 3 things that didn't work for you from what you experienced during the week?
Well, like I said, it was like the exertion aerobic core. Like I did half the core. That core wasn't too bad, but that girl crazy. She was able to do that entire thing straight. Oh my God, my abs were dying. But like,
that was like what, 10 minutes?
Yeah, I did like 5, and I was like, okay, I'm good. Thanks. But like, and then I was doing like part of the cardio one, and I'm like, I already did so much cardio. I don't want to do anymore. But like, and the thing is, no one's at home. No one's keeping me accountable. So like, I did some of it, watched a little bit of it. I'm like, all right, time to move on to the next video. So like I managed part of it, but but yeah, like I said, even that YouTube video, like, it's not like I didn't like it. I felt like there was a lot of information. It was a lot to take in at once.
It's like boom.
Yeah, it was a lot, like a lot. So it's definitely, I'd have to take more time again and really dissect everything he was going through, because he kind of jumped from one group of things to another group of things to another group of things, and I'm like, are we still talking about the same thing? Like, oh my God.
So what I'm hearing is that doing like cardio and high exertion stuff over YouTube videos doesn't work, especially in like environments of low accountability.
Yeah.
And then also doing something like the YouTube video with a lot of information coming at you, you feel like the need to like write it all down so that you can capture it, but it becomes unsustainable when there's like so much all at once, that you respond better to like smaller tidbits of information rather than like large amounts of information all at once. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and I think what's been working really well is when I'm getting those little pockets of information coming at me, because then it's like, okay, you know, like I've got 10 minutes here to spare. I have 10 minutes here to spare, and I can just kind of digest it slowly. Whereas I sat down and I was watching the video, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot. It's an hour. My God.
Well, that's why
but I couldn't watch it on my phone. I'm like, I got YouTube on my TV. I'm just gonna set it up, and then I just did it that way.
Awesome. So I mean, these are the really important things. Like, there's nothing wrong. Like the core thing is like what works for Christine. So the more that we can get connected to that, like as group, right? The more that every person can be more effective. Myself, Jeanette, you even, because we're all clear on what works and what doesn't work. Nothing wrong about it, right? So, I mean, or else, like, I guess otherwise we would get you to do like 1 hour of watching YouTube videos every day with cardio boot camps at home after work, you know?
As I
No.
and doing it. Nope.
Joking.
Yeah.
But
With the 10 incline on my treadmill, sure. Why not?
exactly. Yeah. With only eating chicken and broccoli for dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
Bye. I'm done. That was fine, guys.
Yes. So
That's it.
now moving past the what didn't work, what are some things that you were surprised at that you are grateful that you got to either learn about yourself, learn information wise, or anything of the sort?
I really liked the body type article. Like that was very cool because it really it really just broke it out. Like this is what it is. And like just identifying it, putting a label on it, like not just be like, oh my gosh, like I'm a big boned person and I'm always like this and I can never seem to blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, it's nothing wrong with you. That's just how your body is. And so like, that was a very cool article to read. And same with the whole, like the other article about like the figure, like if you're a triangle, a rectangle. Yeah.
Hourglass.
Hourglass. I've always known I was hourglass.
Yes, you are.
So what did that bring about? Like when you had that knowledge now, like what's different now with that knowledge that you didn't have before? Like,
well, it's just like as I continue to progress and as my body starts to change with, you know, losing weight and all that, then I know that, you know, I'm not gonna just expect my ass to fall off. It's still gonna be there because I'm an hourglass. Like, you know, like I'll see my body change alongside the figure that I saw, right? So I don't have high expectations of like if I only train a certain muscle group, then this is all that, like, yeah, it won't be any surprises. I will be pointed and being like, oh, well, why don't I have small shoulders? Why are my shoulders still so big? And it's just like, well, because you were born that way, girl. That's how it. Like, so yeah.
it sounds like almost that it's. Let me know if I've got this, but it sounds like self-acceptance almost.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. Because I think those become things you become self-conscious, right? Where you're like, oh, you have broad shoulders, and like it kind of sounds as though it's something negative.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, well, it's not because I'm working out that I have broad shoulders.
I have
broad shoulders because I'm born that way with broad shoulders. Like that's how I'm structured. Because I've had that told to me before. They're like, oh yeah, you know, with all that training and lifting that you've been doing lately, your shoulders are looking really broad. And I'm like, really? You feel the same to me. So
awesome. And is there any other things that stood out to you, surprised you, or anything like that?
Again, I really, really enjoyed that video, that stretch video. Like,
awesome.
She was good though. Like she taught it well. Like I like that.
That's why I picked it as well, because I think that those are the areas where you really, really need the stretch. I pick like specific joints because I'm like, spin. I saw your activities. I'm like, you need this, you'll need this. And I think when you do that, and if you put intent, like what Cameron was trying to say, where what intensity level can we get you to that intensity level when you do stretch? Because when you're in, when there is, I would say, where there's intention, where you go, even if it's just a stretch, it's a whole new level. Like you will literally blow your mind, like, oh my God, I did that. And your body would even say like, oh, and you're like, wow, I'm so glad that you enjoy that stretch, because slowly, and especially when you get into your mind thing on your next week and you combine this mind and with what your stretches are, you won't even know how great your body feel after your go days. You will like, you're looking forward to doing it, is what I'm getting at.
Intention matters. It really, really does.
Yes, it's the intention.
it's not just doing it for the sake of doing it. And you actually pointed to that when you were in that burnt out state where you were just like just push through. Like, what would it be like if, you know, you didn't have to just push through, you could just pause, you know?
What's that?
I know, right? We'll discover that.
We'll discover that, Christine. A pause.
Yeah.
There's a pause button.
But a lot of it is like, I mean, if I pose the question, like what you make it mean when you just have to push through, you will probably be able to answer the question. Because a lot of times it occurs to people like they are avoiding failure, like of self, like they label themselves as like, I can't do it. I'm going to prove that I can do it. Or some version of that so that they push through whatever.
Like challenges.
Yeah, exactly. But and it works for a short-term motivator, but then it's you even said in a it's actually a question that I like wrote down that I was going to ask you is you wrote in your band workouts that was it the band workouts or maybe it was one of the it was one of the classes, and it was, you said like when there was a ton of repetition, you like made a comment about like probably will be boring, you know, probably won't like this, probably will be bored. To me, I really noticed how much variety matters to you. Like, and we found that out with food actually, but it matters in movement too. And the other thing is that it, from at least reading, that it looks like when you do something that you go into like a mindless state where it's lots of reps, that it becomes boring.
It
And I wanted
loses
to
you.
see if you could expand on that. Like, what is it like when you're doing exercise and it's boring?
It's not motivating.
Yeah.
Like that's why like I'm a huge fan of changing it up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like even with workouts, right? Like trying something new, because then you are hitting muscles you probably hadn't hit before, or you're scaring the body and, you know, shocking it into something different. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that was actually my very first lift class
Mm-hmm.
since they've started offering them again. So going into that workout from, let's say, a lifting class that I used to do where like there's so much variety
Mm-hmm.
in like the programming, to like, okay, well, these are the 10 workouts, we're gonna do 6 rounds, and I'm just like, okay, sure. And like I understand why. Like it's definitely time under tension that they're trying to encourage. I was sore after it, so I can't, you know, say like it didn't work. But it's something that I was like, okay, well, this is different. Let's see how this goes. And like now that I've done like 3 of their lifting classes now, I'm just like, okay, as long as I'm the instructors are at least changing it up once in a while, then like, it won't be that bad. And so like I did the one lifting class I did on, I think it was Thursday. I was just like, all right, like I liked this variety, and it wasn't for 40 seconds. So I wasn't like, it didn't feel as dreadful. It was only 30 seconds. So like even the length of time makes a huge difference, because I'm just like, oh my God, it's so long.
So the length of time that you
complaining because working out. Who doesn't complain while working out?
I mean, it's not rude. I mean, I guess some people do, some people don't. But I'm just curious. But like, what of it, like, would you say that you'd complain more at? Like, what would be the activity that would make it more likely that you'd complain?
I don't know. I think it's also because as an instructor, you already have like predetermined expectations of what a class should be like.
Sure.
So that could just be me being judgmental.
Okay.
Right?
I'm judging
like,
for every course.
Like, well, because then you're like, well, that's probably not how I would have planned it, or like I'm thinking, when I'm saying probably would get boring, it's like probably would get boring to maybe me, maybe to other participants, right? Like if I know like I like variety, who's to say that someone else might not be in that same boat? So yeah.
Totally. So for you though, what did you find in the classes that you liked? And so like clearly you liked variety, but like specifically, what were the elements that you enjoyed doing and you enjoyed moving your body to in the lifting class?
Definitely liked when they included band work, like more there's a word for it, multi-functional. when you're
Sure.
when you're doing like two exercises at the same time.
Compound movement.
That's it. Compound movements. So like, me standing there just
Mm-hmm.
doing bicep curls all day long, I'm like, okay, like maybe if they had offered progressions or regressions in the class, then I would be like, all right, like I have
Mm-hmm.
something that can challenge me versus
Mm-hmm.
let's just do bicep curls for 6 rounds, 30 seconds. Like, Jeanette, come on, you don't think that's boring? When you're like, okay, like, because you want to make the most out of your workout. And if you're there, you want more bang for your buck, right? So I think I'm just of that mindset where I can't just get away with a curl. Like, throw in a lunge in there, or
Okay.
like there was one exercise where she's like, okay, do a glute bridge on the mat. And I'm like, all right. And I had the band around my quads. So I did my glute bridge and I'm like, this doesn't feel right. So we had the steps right there. I put my feet on the step and I just did an elevated glute bridge and like pulsed it out at the top because I needed that extra push. I needed more than just that like glute bridge.
Right.
And that could be because like I'm in the industry and I'm not maybe want more advanced moves. Right. And I like they're keeping it basic because they're trying to cater to everybody, but it's just extra would be nice. Progressions.
Do you mind speaking towards like you use the term like bang for your buck?
Yeah.
Can you talk about like when you're in a class, like what would have you have the experience inside of yourself that you've gotten like the bang for your buck?
Well, a lot of that's on me, right? Because if I'm not putting all that effort in, then I'm not going to leave satisfied and I'm not going to have the bang for your buck. I'm not going to feel that way, right?
Right. So the feeling though, like so you described the lunge versus the bicep curl.
Yeah.
You are not going to have a bang for your buck experience in your body when you do a bicep curl, but you will have the bang for your buck experience in your body when you do the lunge. Can you explain what that means a little bit more?
If I was doing like a lunge while doing a bicep curl
Sure.
at the same time, then I'm like, awesome, right? Like, but if my knees aren't feeling well, then I just won't do the lunge. But at least that option is there,
right,
where in that period of that 30 seconds for the 6 rounds, I do have that option to make it harder and get more value out of that time. Like it's like wanting to work smarter, not harder. So, and it's just a programming thing, right?
Yeah,
for
totally.
The instructor.
So is there a feeling associated with when because you said that you are at the source of it, right? You're at the source of the effort being put out, but like clearly there is some type of experience in your body that would have you feel like, yeah, I got my money's worth. Like, what is that? Like, what kind of things happen?
Well, and it's also limitations right now, right? So like, okay, if I don't want to be a douche and just start doing my own workout while they're trying to tell me to do bicep curls, then, how do I make the bicep curl harder? It would be getting heavier weights.
Sure.
But unfortunately, that's not a possibility at the moment.
Right.
But in normal circumstances, I would be like, all right, let's grab the heavier weights. This is more bang for my buck. Because then, yes, I'm allowing myself to be exerted even more.
So when more exertion, more bang for buck.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So do you hear that though? Like that your experience of whether you got your money's worth is predicated on the exertion?
Yeah, so my effort.
Yes. So isn't it probable that like you're going to skew yourself towards a certain type of class?
Most people do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But that again, it's all about this like internal currency of what we decide is valuable, right? Some people they want the peace, mindful, and they actually adhere to that versus the exertion.
Yeah.
And they have their own set of things that are limiting for them, right? Because they don't push themselves. Then there's the other spectrum where people define their internal currency based upon their exertion, and their effort, and how much they sweat, how high their heart rate is. Even in like Orange Theory, it's like, you know, how much you were in the orange zone or whatever, like whatever tickles your fancy. The thing to connect to is that you have the occurring that you are only getting your money's worth, or you're only doing a good job when you operate in a certain way, right? And that will then skew how you take part in other activities, possibly. And all I'm doing is pointing it out. And that's it. But it will have you have a predictable way that you take on activities, and it will have a predictable way that you don't take on activities. So what Jeanette was pointing to about like feeling how the body moves, sure, the bicep curl is boring. That's the way that it occurs to you. When you do a compound movement, it doesn't occur to you like boring because your exertion is high. The thing that you would get from the bicep curl, you literally could just feel how it feels to like lengthen your arm, and just appreciate the fact that you have arms that can lengthen and retract, you know? It doesn't necessarily need to be related to that internal currency of whether you have exerted enough. So I don't know if that, yes,
it's the intention. Like what she was saying, I was like listening to her too. Like I was like, my head was like rotating. It's like, okay, it's a bicep curl, 40 seconds, not boring at all. Why? Okay, if your core is engaged, just set every intention on it. Like, do you feel when you bring it down? Do you feel your joint from the extension to the flexion to the lengthen of everything? Like, and it's pure muscle where the only thing is moving is literally just your bicep, like nothing else. When you feel that pure muscle movement, that 40 seconds feels like forever. You'd be like,
no, it totally does. Yeah.
So it's just what I'm as well seeing what Cameron's saying, like what it feels inside of you when you do a certain movement that you really tap on, or you engage into that muscle that it's supposed to be. Because when you're doing, let's say when you said like a lunge and a bicep curl, it's like, yeah, I feel like there's more going on. But what about the intention of doing it? Like, when you do that, are you just going through the motion, or inside you you're like, oh my god, I really felt that connection? Because the intention will really connect you inside your body. That will give you more perspective of how your body works. Because that, like, this one, I really has, that's the reason why, no pun with, like, I'm a group fitness instructor before I came in, but when I started with Pilates, it gave me a more connection with my body and the more how I see people move. Like, even just as a movement from the ankles, I will be like, huh, like my jaws drop, because I'm like, how did I not see that? Because I like now when you would see people with the intention of how they move, it's like, wow, it's amazing. And even that feeling of just really connecting, like before I would do like, I've worked out with you, you've worked out with me, we're like bang on, bang on, bang on, bang on. And then when I started to realize how to connect and really engage, no workout is a boring workout as long as your intention is there. And even just the stretch, the connection, like even if it's just a stretch, but because you have a connection inside of you, that alone is a workout, like a workout. And your body will appreciate it more, because now they would connect a workout and a rest and a stretch. Like they say, this strength, endurance, but the thing that people always forget is flexibility. It's always forgotten because like, oh, it's so boring, I'm just gonna stretch, okay, I'm stretch it, okay, I'm done, what now? Because they don't put the intention to it, like that feeling, the connection inside. Reason why when I even stretch, I have to close my eyes because I want to feel what's moving, like where's it coming from, like really deep inside of you. When you get that connection, it's an amazing feeling.
And that will be discovered with time. And one thing, you know, Jeanette is connected to that, and that doesn't mean that you need to experience that right now. It's to be committed to like finding it out for yourself. And why I brought up what I brought up is that, you know, you have this internal currency where you relate to a good workout in a certain way. right? And you relate to a boring workout in a certain way. And I just want you to consider that a bicep curl doesn't need to be the same way for everyone. Like to Jeanette, she could really enjoy a bicep curl for all the reasons she just said. And she experiences the bicep curl not the same way as you, because her internal currency is different. Like she might have the same, like when she's exerting high level, you know, she gets more bang for her buck. And when she's very mindful and connected to her body, she also gets bang for the buck. It's discovering new ways of operating. But if you only have one mode, which is on, how do you go off? It's like you injure yourself is like the only way you go off. And not saying that that's the only way that you'd go off, but pointing to that there's more to movement than you might know. And I know, and everyone knows. We get to discover it on our terms. And the way that Jeanette just spoke about like really feeling the body, you might not feel that right now, and that's okay. But what I want to invite you to consider is to not write off something and label it as boring, but instead find the beauty in everything that you do. And it kind of sounds a little bit floofy, but I swear it's true. If you are able to like find the positive thing within anything, you can enjoy even the darkest of times. Like walking in the rain, you can enjoy, right? You can feel the coolness that just flows down you know, as you walk. It doesn't necessarily need to be bad or boring or any other label. So that's what I invite you to consider, is to find the beauty in everything, because that's where you get to discover your version of it. But if it only exists in one way, then obviously you're never going to do it. But stretching is going to be predictable, where you will perhaps not prioritize it because the internal currency is not being fulfilled to the same degree as when you're at the gym and pushing hard. The impact of operating only in that way, though, is a higher probability of injury and thus derailing results in a longer term perspective rather than shorter term.
Well, and that's why I'm sticking to those Wednesday mobility classes, because like I said, it's in an atmosphere that I enjoy being in. I'm able to get those stretches in, and like I totally appreciate that class, because like I do get like that amazing feeling of okay, like, you know, realizing the muscles that are tight, opening up the hips, really taking that mindful 45 minutes and recovering. Like that's, you know, that's something that's been added because I need it. I know I do. And so it's not to say I'm writing off stretching entirely out of my life. Like, trust me, I know I can, for sure. Like, there's no doubt in my mind I don't do it enough, and I need to. And any person can say that, because if they're in the gym as hard as I am, they're totally not getting enough stretching time. Like, God, how many times we run over teaching in class? We're like, okay, sorry guys, be a quick stretch. Go over there if you need more time, because, you know, like even we get carried away, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, like I'm not saying bicep curls in general are boring. I'm just
It's just
saying down the road, if I go to that lifting class and we just do a bicep curl,
of course,
every time, then I can probably see it being boring. Like I would imagine that down the road, I would hope the planning would require some form of regression or progression or something, so that I'm not going to go to a lift class and do the same bicep curl at the same time, right? Like, give me hammer curls, give me reverse curls, give me something. But I don't like, and I'm guilty for it. Like, I plan my classes where I'm like, okay, guys, we're gonna do a bicep curl today. And like, it's not hating on a bicep curl. It's just, yeah, like it's having that, like I said, it's the variety. It's any person in their right mind is not gonna want to go to a class
doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, I'm going to appreciate a squat every single time, because it's one of your 100%. Biggest muscles. And I know all the girls want a booty. So we're going to be doing squats every class because they want it and I want it. But it's also like, you're not going to just do a regular squat every time. You are going to do a sumo squat. You are going to do a pulse squat. You're going to do some variation so that I don't go to class and be like, oh my God, she's gonna make us do pulse squats again because she just loves it. No, like I know there's gonna be changes. And so that was just my general assumptions of what might happen if that was based on my first experience in lift class. Like, oh no, this is what we're gonna do every time. Like, I'm serious, I don't hate on that class at all. Like, I'm freaking sore that entire week. So, like, at the end of the day, it was bang for your buck.
Totally. So when you're more sore, is it more bang for buck too?
Knowing her, I would say.
It reminds me that, oh my God, I haven't done this in a long time. Like, I am sore. It just reminds me how much I've neglected those muscles.
Right.
Because, yeah, like it was my first lift class. But yeah, and the thing is too, if you don't feel sore, it's in a way, it does mess with your mind. It's like, oh my gosh, like I haven't pushed myself this hard before, or something happened in class this time that I probably haven't had. Or if there's a time where I'm never sore, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm fine now. I don't know. But my God, even after my first Pilates class, my inner thighs were hurting for days. I'm just like, what happened to my crotch? Like, what happened? Sore. Damn Pilates.
Right?
But yeah, no, it's you're waking up muscles that you probably hadn't touched in a while, and it's a good sign. But also, don't push as hard the next day. Because you can't, you're sore.
So the last thing I will ask, and then I'll be done with my questions, is so you spoke about when you're doing your Wednesday mobility class, where you experience like that it feeling really good in your body. Can you tell me and tell us a little bit about what is the bang for buck experience in your body that has you maybe experience a class be better or worse comparatively?
For the mobility class, well, I had only taken it once so far, and from that first class, she had us do just lying on the ground doing a hamstring stretch, and then bringing your leg off to the side and then off to cross your body. And she really focused on just that leg. And then she's like, all right, now sit up, put your leg down, and look at the difference in your legs. And legitimately, my foot was like this far from this other foot. And I'm like, what happened? Like, I was like mind blown. And she's like, imagine if you did that every day. I'm like, yeah, I'd be taller. So, but it was that awareness of like, holy shit, like I've probably compacted myself so much by not stretching. And so just that one eye-opening moment was like, oh, all right, I'm doing this every Wednesday now because I need this. This felt good. And it has, and yeah, and the fact that it's right after spin class, I'm like, I'm already there.
Right.
What's another 45 minutes to stretch it all out properly? Because
Awesome.
there.
What else felt good about it? Like when you say it felt good, like you noticed that you had a big impact on your hamstring when you went to, reach, but like what other things signal to you that the class was a success or like bang for buck?
Well, she focused and because she's the one teaching the classes, like she was focusing on all the areas that we were super tight because she knows like the majority of the classes being taught in the studio are spin classes. So a lot of that focus was like hamstrings, hips, back, right? So, and then we got to end with Shavasana at the end. I'm like, argue that. I'll do Shavasana all day long, right? So, it was great. Everything about it was good.
Awesome.